What's going on, people? So we have got a lot to discuss today. It's been quite an eventful week for Xbox. We've got a couple of news articles related to how they're going to be handling new consoles on the market, Project XCloud's integration into GamePass, and of course, old Phil Spencer. Got to give some clarification to his statement. So, without further ado, here we go. Diving in with topic number one. Microsoft is going to be discontinuing the One X and the One S all digital edition. Oh, say it ain't so. This is the end of Xbox, or how some people would want you to believe. So, Microsoft has told The Verge that as we ramp into the future with Xbox Series X, we're taking the natural step of stopping production on the One X and the One S all digital edition. The Xbox One S, however, will still be manufactured and sold. So I've seen a lot of people running with the narrative that this is just another example of flip-floppity-floobity Phil Spencer. They over here announcing this no Xbox Child Left Behind program, and then they're discontinuing that console that child could potentially buy. Say it ain't so. And if I'm being honest with y'all, this is just what's best for business. Because just think about the optics for a second, right? Before this article came out, there were going to be 5 Xbox consoles on the store shelves by the end of the year. The Xbox One S, the Xbox One S All Digital Edition, the Xbox One X, the Xbox Series X, the Xbox One S Lockhart. Jesus Christ, just even saying that right now, that's way too many Xboxes. It's a PR disaster waiting to happen. This is a nightmare for the average consumer, someone who doesn't really know that much. It's very easy to compare and contrast things like, oh, this is the Xbox One S, that's the older console, and the Xbox Series X, that's the new console. But when you start getting into something like the One X, which is a mid-gen refresh, and then the Xbox Lockhart, both of those being at similar price tags, how do you justify the One X still being made? So Microsoft coming out there and saying, hey, you know what? We're just going to discontinue the 2 Xbox consoles that aren't in our vision anymore. And it makes a lot of sense, especially when you compound the fact that both the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro have not been selling to the degree that a lot of people think they are. I mean, they definitely put up numbers, but the average consumer is going to go for the cheapest console that exists. Like, these refreshes are usually just for the hardcore gamer. Of course, if someone sees like a good deal on a One X or the PlayStation 4 Pro, they're going to jump on it. But as a whole, if somebody can get the Xbox One S for $150, it's a 4K Blu-ray player, they have Game Pass, and then with XCloud coming, they can stream stuff to it. Why would they go out there and spend $400 on the One X? You get the point I'm trying to say? So to me, this makes a lot of sense. If they have the One S and they continue to discount that like $100 at some point on Black Friday, and then they have the other 2 SKUs available, it's just what's best for business. But if you are a person who is interested in owning an Xbox One X because you like the custom designs, I would definitely recommend checking your retailers now, because once they're gone, they're gone. Now, diving into the second article, like I mentioned, with Project XCloud launching on the Xbox consoles, XCloud is going to be included with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate starting this September. And there is a lot of good stuff that comes from this, because Xbox, they've gotten a lot of things wrong this generation, but one thing that they've been doing right is just giving so much value with their subscriptions. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is the best value in all of gaming. When you strip away having to pay for online games on consoles, Xbox Game Pass alone, you get so much value with that. The day one exclusives, all of the big third-party games like Devil May Cry, Red Dead Redemption, those games on the service, it's seriously dope. And then when you factor in the fact that you can use this on PC as well, adding in streaming for all of those games too, it's just a nice benefit. Because the biggest problem that you run into when it comes down to all of these services out there is that how much services can exist for them to justify their existence. You know what I'm saying? Because it was easy when it was just Netflix, and then Hulu for the stuff that wasn't on Netflix. But when you start adding in other things like Peacock and all those, it's just like, is it really worth it? Streaming, something that a lot of people, they like the idea of it, but they're not 100% sold to really subscribe. As we've seen with the numbers in Stadia, not doing so well. Including this with the Xbox Game Pass is just so much more incentive that it's just like, hey, you know what? I've got my smartphone right here. I'm already out of the house. let me just see if I can load up a game. And from what I've been seeing with XCloud and all of the test videos they've been doing, it runs pretty decently. And as it progresses and more people get invited into the program, working out all the bugs and the kinks, I think this is seriously going to go somewhere. But the fact that it's being included as part of the subscription in this ecosystem, I think is what is going to give it the edge by comparison to all the other standalone subscriptions that exist. So yeah, this is just good on Microsoft. I mean, honestly, like the previous article, it's just what's best for business. I don't really think that them charging for XCloud as its own separate service really pan out that way, because just look at Stadia. They're coming out here and they're announcing, hey, we have Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, but I know people like Stadia. I understand that. I really do. But just Google's track record, I don't like the idea that once those servers go down, those games are gone forever, and you just wasted all that money on it. But at least with XCloud, these games you already own on the regular Xbox, but now you have the ability to stream those games. So it's really dope. And now moving into the third one. This comes from an interview that Phil Spencer recently conducted. I'll have the link to the video down below in the description box. But the reason why I wanted to highlight this is because it has to do with Xbox's relation to Japan. As many of y'all know, Xbox has had a very rough history out east in Japan. They've had numerous partnerships before in the past. As y'all know, in the beginning of the Xbox 360's life, they had a lot of exclusive partnerships going on, to the point where it was kind of like JRPG heaven for the first 2 years. But that quickly fell off a rock, and we really didn't get that much Japanese support. And Japanese support is really vital and crucial to the gaming market, especially this generation, as we've seen, Monster Hunter World explode, Devil May Cry 5, Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 7 Remake. It's really important, despite what people say. Some of the most celebrated franchises do come out of Japan. And Phil Spencer, credit where credit is due. He's gone to secure more of those games. Granted, some of those multiplats were going to come to Xbox anyway, like Dragon Ball Kakarot, Dragon Ball Fighters. Like, we knew those were going to be on Xbox. Why? Because those games have always been on Xbox. But seeing stuff like Tales of Arise come to Xbox, the Yakuza series come to Xbox, the remaining Kingdom Hearts games come to Xbox, that stuff is really cool. There have been rumors and rumblings that they would go ahead and establish a studio out there. And if they're going to establish a studio to make exclusive games to Xbox, I am seriously all on board with it. Y'all know me, Lost Odyssey was one of my favorite RPGs on the Xbox, and if they announce a studio there and they're doing some type of a remake, a reboot, maybe even a sequel, spiritual successor, whatever you got to do, getting the original people involved, I'm seriously all there for it. But the important thing here is that, they know that they have to rebuild those bridges, because, it was a stigma for a very long time, and it still exists, that Japanese gamers don't care about Xbox because there's nothing on the console that appeals to them. There are weeks that will go by where Xbox consoles sell like maybe 40 units in Japan. I'm not trying to make light of it. These are the actual numbers that are there. So if they continue on with those partnerships and things like Phantasy Star Online 2, we'll just have to see where things go from there. But in this interview in particular, in the video that's going to be down below, Phil Spencer did make another comment in regards to this whole cross-generation shtick that's been going on, the No Xbox Child Left Behind program, as I've coined. In that video, he was asked about games like The Scorn and The Medium, right? Where, those games are going to be coming out on the Xbox Series X, but not the regular Xbox One. So why are some of the first-party games going to be cross-generational, but some of these other titles aren't? And his response was, we just leave it all up to the developer partners and they can do what they want. People are just running with that as, oh, hey, he's just flip-flopping. He's saying one thing one day and then another day he's saying something completely different because he's just trying to appeal to all people. That whole sort of business shtick. Yeah, probably to some extent. But just looking at the way things have been progressing with the Xbox games and the studios, when they're talking about for the first 1 to 2 years that all of their Xbox games are going to be available on the Xbox One, I'm not looking at that as Microsoft being altruistic and just, they don't believe in generations like that. I'm looking at that as Microsoft has probably already had those games in development for the Xbox One. And then they make sure that those games are able to scale up to the Series X. I have a feeling that, because everything is changing so fast at Microsoft, that, what, we're making this game for the Xbox One. It was already in the pipeline for the Xbox One. So you know what? We'll leave it on the Xbox One for these people. We'll have the Series X version, and then we'll just go from there. We'll have a PC version. It'll be able to run on Lockhart. I just think that's the reason why they said for the first 1 to 2 years, it's going to be on the Xbox One, because those games were already in development for the Xbox One. Like, that's just my tinfoil hat conspiracy. I don't think it's like, okay, we're making all these new games, but we're going to make sure they always have to run on the regular Xbox One. I don't think it's like that. I don't think that they're just strong-arming all those developers like, yeah, you're going to work with this eSRAM or whatever. I just think that that's the reason why of course, they're trying to spin this as, yeah, we don't believe in generations, because they're trying to go for that good PR. But I just think it's because they were already in development. Like, Halo Infinite was in development for Xbox One for years. So why would they cancel that and make it a Series X exclusive? You get what I'm saying? When they can make millions of dollars off the people who aren't going to upgrade immediately. Now, if they were greenlighting games right now, I think those are going to be the Series X exclusives or Series X PC games that aren't on the regular Xbox One. I think that's a more realistic viewpoint of things, as opposed to, yes, that's right, you, the developer, are going to have to make games for the Xbox One. And then when you factor in that the Medium and Scorn are coming from third-party developers, right? They're not first-party studios. For them, they're just like, yeah, this is what we want to do. We're creating a partnership with them. But that's just my clarification as far as this is concerned. Gosh, I really do sound like a PR spokesperson. But let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think about all this stuff. Project XCloud coming to Game Pass. The Xbox consoles getting discontinued, in addition to Phil Spencer's comments. Let me know down below. And from me to you for now, my name is NGS, signing out. Like always, I will catch you guys later. Peace.